All right, episode 36, and today we're talking about the Clouded Leopard. And I'm very excited because I actually made blueprints for this exhibit long ago, even before I even started the letter B in my series. Why did I do that? Simple. For some reason, I thought it was next. I don't know. I was stupid. What do you want from me? Anyway, today we are speaking about the lovely Clouded Leopard, and before we get too far into the animal itself, let me discuss what I am doing here with the exhibit. First and foremost, I wanted to make it a two-tier exhibit, meaning up top will be a viewing area and is going to be a nice, misty, foggy, tropical jungle sort of look, and then is going to have a waterfall that sends down to the bottom that is going to be a more temperate East Asian look. Now, with that said and done, let's discuss the animal in question. First and foremost, the name, as we love to start with the name of the animal. The Clouded Leopard is pretty basic with everything about it, quite honestly. It is a leopard with an asterisk, that is, since how it is actually not a part of the Panthera genus, where leopards like the African leopard would be a part of, similar to the snow leopard, where they actually branched off before becoming true leopards. Now, generally speaking, in the animal world, a leopard is anything that looks like the stereotypical African leopard. You know, the generic sort of spots all over its body and having a somewhat arboreal or climbing nature to it. Now, the Clouded Leopard is not just bare bones with its name, seeing how its spots give it a very cloudy appearance compared to the very hard spots on something like, for instance, the African leopard, but even its scientific name being Neophilus nebulosa, which is Greek for new cat and clouded or hazy, it goes to show that they weren't too creative when it comes to the name, but honestly, I think Clouded Leopard's pretty cool. So, what about this animal is notable other than just the obvious, it being a clouded leopard? So, physically speaking, at least, they have a not quite prehensile, but very flexible and maneuverable tail, which they will use to help balance them. On top of that, seeing how they are extremely arboreal compared to most other felines, they actually have a very unique set of physical structures. One of which being the fact that their ankles can rotate, somewhat akin to the way our wrist can. Not quite to that degree, but you get the idea. That helps it get the ability to climb at very strange angles, including something that most cats can't do, and that is to climb vertically straight down, face first. On top of that, they can also use their hind legs somewhat like you may have seen monkeys do, where they can hold on to a branch with their back legs so that they can reach out with their front paws to reach another surface or to get a better look around the area. Now, on top of that, they also have another very key feature that stems all the way back to their ancestral roots, and that is their massive canines. And now, I say massive, to us it wouldn't be that massive, seeing how the Clouded Leopard only reaches anywhere from 28 to 35 pounds, but compared to the rest of their body, they are the largest canines out of any cat. Being roughly 1.5 inches in length, pretty much has made this animal deemed the last living saber-tooth. Seeing how the comparative size of the animal makes these very pronounced, yet they do stay inside the mouth. Now, the Clouded Leopard is actually a very, very secretive animal, obviously due to its extensive arboreal reach and the fact that it is, much like many felines, nocturnal. It's kind of hard to really get an idea of the natural habits of these creatures. However, there is a few things that we do know about their preferred range. They usually live in very high altitude, hilly areas, usually in evergreen tropical forests, but can be found in deciduous areas under 30,000... What is that? Is that a meter? Who wrote this? 1 second. Give me a moment, all right? Yeah, it's looking like, what is this? 9,800 feet. So below 9,800 feet in the mountains of East Asia. Now, more specifically, there are 2 different species of clouded leopard. And this would pretty much demonstrate where they would be, where you could find them. There is the mainland subspecies, which is in parts of South China, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Nepal, northeastern India, Myanmar, and mainland Malaysia. While there is also the second subspecies, the much more rare Sunda clouded leopard, being found in islands of Sumatra and Borneo. Now, very important to note, the name Sunda. We will be coming back to that in just a bit when we get into the history of the animal as a whole. Now, they had previously been seen in places like Singapore, Taiwan, Hainan, and parts of Vietnam. However, at this point in time, it is pretty much presumed that in those regions they are completely extinct. It is somewhat debated in Hainan and Vietnam, but as of right now, it is pretty much understood that they most likely are extinct in those regions. Now, with these very high altitudes, they are extremely athletic, which pretty much helps them with their arboreal lifestyle. However, it hadn't stopped them from being poached to near extinction for a whole bunch of reasons. And can you guess the 2 biggest reasons this poor animal is killed en masse? It lives in southern China. I bet you can figure it out. Yeah, it's traditional medicine and the exotic pet trade. And unlike with some of the other animals, it was also killed for its pelt because, let's be real, it is a beautiful coat. And apparently everyone thought the same thing. It would make a very beautiful coat. So, quite honestly, it has been absolutely poached to hell in the recent centuries. To give you an idea, there's only about 10,000 wild clouded leopards left in the world, which is a 30% decline in the past 60 years alone. So unfortunately, it's not getting the pangolin treatment of every nation and their mother making it illegal, which is BS. It absolutely should be. Now, when it comes to the imagery of this animal, there isn't much. However, it is the animal of the Indian state of Meghalaya. I hope I am pronouncing that correctly. Other than that, there isn't too much really to note about the animal other than its majestic appearance. Now, let's get into the history of this animal. So as I said, they are most closely related to the snow leopard, both of which not being actual leopards, and the clouded leopard actually broke off before the snow leopard. The snow leopard is still considered a panther, being a part of the Panthera genus, also including traditional leopards, lions, and tigers. Now, unfortunately, this means it is the last living species of its branch. While not being Panthera like the other leopard species, they are still closely related. And the idea that it actually diverged from Panthera roughly 9.3 to 4.4 million years ago, becoming a part of its own sort of panther but not panther subspecies. So the most direct link between them and the rest of the Pantheras would be the ancient animal known as Panthera blythei, which was the first panther that we know of in the fossil record. I apologize if there's an audio change. I accidentally paused, and now I'm all off track. But let's get back into what we're talking about. Panthera blythei, the first known panther. If I can get on a little bit of a tangent to get an idea of the evolutionary process of this animal. seeing how, as you can see, it does somewhat look like a snow leopard, but obviously it's very old and still has a little bit of that saber tooth left in it. My theory is, since we found it in Tibet, eventually the animal started moving southwards. The ones that stayed in the Himalayas became the snow leopards that we know today, and the ones that continue to go further south into the tropics, having to become arboreal and climbing much more trees than mountains, ended up evolving into the clouded leopards we know today. And if you remember me earlier saying to remember the subspecies name of Sunda, well, this is where we come back to that. The area that at one point back in this time period that connected Borneo, Java, Sumatra, Malaya, Palawan, and the Sulu archipelago roughly 2.6 to 2 million years ago was known as Sundaland, which, yep, we're all starting to connect it together. Sweet. So that is where that species name comes from. Now, we don't really know what happened to Panthera blythei. However, it is pretty safe to say that in most likely circumstances, it went extinct due to not being as specialized as its predecessors, that being the future panther species, the snow leopard, and the clouded leopard in wherever you may be finding them. Now, since I've been branching off at different rabbit holes all over the place, and I'm really just lost in my own sauce, let me discuss a little fact that I accidentally skipped and missed at some point during its physical description. You see, this has a little bit of context to it, so we're going to start there. To give you an idea, pretty much all felines, when they mate, tend to have a strange habit of the males biting the back of the neck of the females. This actually is good for the animal. It induces the correct hormones for them to reproduce properly. I don't get it. You know what? I do get it, but you know what? Let's not talk about it. Anyway, the fact that the clouded leopard has some of the longest canines in the feline community means that occasionally fatalities happen in the breeding process, which is awkward, and a lot of researchers, from what I've read, were very surprised to see it happen. I, for one, am glad to not be one of those researchers, because I know the animal kingdom. I know sometimes death is not a problem. If you know, you know. But that is the last of the information I actually have on the animal. So let's discuss what we're doing here on the exhibit. First and foremost, I always struggle to have top coverage for animals in exhibits where it wouldn't make sense to give them some form of cave, because I don't like having physical man-made buildings in my exhibits unless it's something that makes sense, like, let's say, the raccoon, or in the sense of one of my early builds of the addax, it made sense. They were ruins. So I have found out that if you take a constructive roof, put it in a tree line, change the color to make it fit, you won't even notice, and it counts as coverage. I personally prefer the painted bamboo. It seems to be the easiest to get away with. Another little piece of advice that I've got is when you have these two-tiered exhibits, you may struggle to actually have the pathways between them line up. And here's a little trick that I learned how to do that you could definitely use for pretty much any exhibit of two different heights, or even just going from one exhibit to another based on a currently existing mound or hill or mountain or whatever you got. If you make that little platform like I did and set the path off to the side to make the bridge there, you can delete the land and bring this one in so you can get that good view. On top of that, as an animal that requires a lot of climbing, I love to pretty much add my own little learning tidbits that I get while working on these climbing animals. I always struggled to give a proper amount of somewhat natural climbing expanses for a lot of my animals. So what I ended up doing here is I made a little platform that follows the cliff face and crosses over the waterfall. Not only is that aesthetically appealing just from the general look of it, it would also give, let's say, another viewer a great opportunity to get a really nice picture, as if, you know, if you're using sort of a precedent that I do of it being a real zoo exhibit. In addition, these little climbing platforms that they give you are very useful in kind of fudging it, to be honest, turning a quote-unquote climbing platform into, quite simply, just a place for the animal to perch. And what better place than right in front of the one-way glass so that the guests can enjoy the view. And with all that said and done, I highly appreciate it if you have seen to the end of the video. I understand if you skipped around a bit, because, yeah, it's a bit long. But thank you for watching. If you enjoy this, please leave a like, comment, sub. You've been on YouTube. You know how this works. Until next time, when we are going to be talking about the collared peccary, and hopefully soon I may have to kind of backtrack on my alphabetical list, seeing how there was just an announcement today about the next expansion and the DLC of finally getting an African leopard. If you've been following, you may know just how much I really, really wanted that added to the game. So anyway, until next time, thank you for watching. Go outside, touch grass, hug your loved ones, drink water, and bye-bye.